So maybe I'm blind, thinking I can see through this and see what's behind. Got no way to prove it, so maybe I'm lying. But I'm only human after all. I'm only human after all. Don't put your blame on me. Don't put your blame on me.
Alright, so before I really dive into the subject of suicide, I'm going to first talk about some of the people that I've ran into in my life that have either contemplated suicide or possibly committed suicide, as I can't verify whether or not they're still alive. One of my earliest memories I have is about 7th, 8th grade, and I was getting picked on pretty regularly at that point. It wasn't, I wouldn't say it was super bad or it was, you know, lessened. It was about average. And I was walking down the hallway, and there was this kid sitting in the hallway doing some schoolwork on one of the benches. And for some reason, we just seemed to be attracted to each other, so I sat next to him. And after a little bit of conversation, he opened up to me, and he told me how he was going to kill himself on a Pacific day. And I'm looking at this kid, and he's a good-looking kid. He doesn't have any weight problems, doesn't have any physical problems. He has good grades. He gets along with all his teachers, and he has a bunch of friends. So I'm a little confused. I'm like, well, why do you want to kill yourself? And why would you not want to live anymore? He couldn't really explain it. He just said that that was the day he knew he was going to die. So he was going to kill himself. And I believe he told me exactly how he was going to do it, but that memory escapes me at this moment. So my first reaction when he told me he was going to kill himself was I did my best to convince him not to. And he got rather hostile with me, and he wasn't enjoying the conversation any further, so I respectfully left. And I did what I thought was right at the time, and I reported him to the teachers, which got him in a bit of trouble. I do believe that he denied the whole accusation, and I was looked at as a liar in that situation. I'm not really sure exactly. Like I said, I don't know if he actually did it or not. I hope that he didn't. I don't know though. Other people that I've ran into in my life, and there was probably a few other younger friends or younger people that I knew back when I was a kid that might have told me the similar things. I don't remember it at this moment, but most of all the suicides I remember are from the Army. Now the thing about the Army was every Friday you would have a safety briefing on do not kill yourself. It was a regular, every weekend they would have to tell us this, and it was the most aggravating thing for me to have to listen to. It was really difficult, but it was a rather big problem in the military. And usually it was guys killing themselves because their girlfriend or their wife was cheating on them with another man, and they didn't feel like living anymore. And there was a couple. There was one time I remember, Fort Hood, Texas, where I was in my room minding my own business, and all of a sudden I heard a whole bunch of banging on a door in a building across from me. And I look outside my window, and they're breaking down the door trying to save this guy. And as they break down the door, I hear the alcohol bottle rolling across the floor as they rush in to save his life. I do believe he died of alcohol poisoning. And his reasoning for doing all this was that his girlfriend broke up with him. And the reason they even found out about this was because he posted that he was going to kill himself on Facebook. But I don't believe they got to him in time. There was some times when I was in Korea, I heard some stories, unverifiable of course, but there was this story of this guy who got so upset about, I think it was his girlfriend leaving him, that he jumped out of the third or fourth floor story with a sheet tied around his neck, and he also stabbed himself with a pen or something as he was falling. Survived long enough to die in the hospital a few weeks later. And it's a real shame that we would come to these conclusions of life that we should no longer live, especially over what I would call a little mundane things like your girlfriend cheating on you. But you know, we all have different stress levels, so I can kind of understand why someone would go into that thought process, which is leading into my own thoughts on suicide. My thoughts on suicide is that you shouldn't do it. And there's a lot of reasons I could give you on why you shouldn't do it, but my favorite reason, I guess the one that I use regularly, is that as much as I love to believe that there is life after death, I have no proof of this. I have no verification of this. And in the act of dying would be like, or the act of committing suicide is saying that you do not want to exist anymore. Would you not exist anymore? So a lot of my my beliefs on suicide is the thought that you're in. Are you killing yourself because you don't want to live anymore? Or are you killing yourself to avoid pain? Because I think pain is a rather consistent thing throughout all of the universe and throughout life in general, regardless if you have a blessed life or an unhappy life. As I showed with my first story about the kid that seemed to have everything but yet still killed himself, which a lot of suicides, you can relate a lot of suicides to people who had a really good life, you would suspect, and you wouldn't understand why they would want to commit suicide. So in a way, suicide is us dealing with our own inadequacies, maybe, or our own disappointments with our life. I mean, you can be disappointed with your life, or you can be disappointed with the things you have in your life, but everything in this life you can't take with you. The only thing you're taking with you in this life is your experiences. So if you're unhappy about a relationship, or if you're unhappy about a material possession that you've lost, all these things aren't things that you're going to be able to take with you. The relationship, yeah, you would take those experiences with you in life, but they're not things. But that one bad experience shouldn't be the guiding factor that makes you want to kill yourself. I would say the glass is half full in this situation. That maybe you will find a better relationship with someone else, find a more compatible relationship with someone else, and the act of separating with this person is really just accepting the fact that you two didn't have the connection that you thought you had. Maybe you thought you had a connection with them, but they didn't reciprocate it. And if they didn't reciprocate it, you're not really going to be happy in that relationship anyway. So by breaking up, you're actually experiencing a benefit, so that way you can go find someone new, someone that appreciates you for everything that you are and everything that you have and who you are, you know. So killing yourself over a relationship has always been a difficult thing for me to understand, which is understandable considering I didn't have to worry about relationships too much as a child. So back to the suicide thing, and I'm going to talk about my own desires for suicide, which was really relevant, but it happened a lot when I was a kid. You know, for obvious reasons. You know, you're unhappy, you get picked on, you don't have any friends. You know, life kind of sucks, right? So you contemplate death a lot. And when I was younger, I used to do a lot of things. Like I'd try to talk to God, for example. You know, I'd beg Him to end my suffering, end my misery. It was always answered with silence, which maybe made me go back and forth from God a few times and all. And now in my later days, I have a different view of religion and everything. But when it comes to religion did help. It did help me to, like, the stories of being prosecuted for what you believe and everything. These were things that helped get me through some of those harder times when I was younger, but I wouldn't say that they gave me a lasting security as I grew older. A lot of things changed when I was 30, but my main thing I wanted to talk about was my out-of-body experience I had. Now, at the time, I was pretty much homeless. I had my job and I had a car, and that was about all I had. And then I was able to find a place to live for fairly cheap, and I just really was unhappy. So what I would do is I'd come home from work and I'd go straight to sleep, and the only thing I'd get out of bed for was to use the bathroom or to eat, or if I wanted to have a cigarette, I'd smoke a cigarette. And so the first day I did this, nothing happened. I went to work, I came home and went back to sleep. But the second day, I was sleeping, and I had a dream where I was in an abandoned, kind of like an abandoned mall with that's been severely damaged over time. The roof was gone in sections. There was a lot of exposed rebar. Part of as I was walking around exploring it, there was a pile of dead dogs. Mostly like the species of which were German Shepherds, which bothered me in my dream, because at that time and now today, I have a German Shepherd, or a German Shepherd looking dog. So that kind of memory was really gruesome in my mind. I actually ended up in my dream walking away from it, and waking up shortly after, and I walked around, contemplated the dream, and then went back to sleep. Went to work, came home, and went back to sleep. Now, the third day, and I was in the same mindset the whole time, like I just do not want to be on this world anymore. And on the third day, I went back to a dream where I'm digging in this hole, and this hole's about 3-4 feet deep, right? And I'm not the only one digging in this hole. There's a whole bunch of people out there digging in all these holes, and there's this really tall, let's say 8 foot, 9 foot tall, really skinny humanoid, I would define it as, with glowing white eyes, walking around, kind of like checking our work or standing there if we needed anything, kind of like a drill sergeant or something. Anyway, I'm digging in this hole, and we're pulling out these little Legos, right? And I'm sitting here in this hole, and I'm digging in this hole, and I'm pulling out these Legos, and I'm like, what's the point of this? Why am I doing this? And this really tall humanoid with the white eyes comes all the way over to me, right? And he's like, you want to know why you're doing this? And I was like, yes, I want to know why I was doing this. And the dream suddenly changed from being a dream to being extremely real. Like I thought I was actually in this room that I was suddenly teleported to. And it was like, as I was teleported to this room, the dust and the dirt from the hole fell off around me in a little pile. And I was suddenly in this chamber, this rectangular chamber with no walls, no windows, no doors, no way in, no way out, no perceived way or in or out. And at the end of this rectangular room, there was an altar, all gold altar too, glowing like sci-fi, kind of like you'd think like an alien kind of like little altar. It had a digital display, and it happened to be my dog at that time. And so I walk up to this altar, and this humanoid standing next to me, and the altar activates, and what it is my dog jumps on these 3 Pacific shapes on this altar. And when the dog does this, I'm suddenly being I'm no longer in the room. I'm rising up through the stars. It feels kind of like a Star Trek movie where you're seeing it and the stars are rushing past you and everything. And I feel myself leaving Earth and going into space, like above Earth, hovering, but not hovering, but continuing forward. And I'm looking forward. I'm not looking back. And this little voice in the back of my head wanted me to look back, just out of curiosity. It just wanted me to look back. And as I was screaming at myself to not look back, I looked back. Upon looking back, I saw Earth, and then it all rushed back in towards me, and I shot all the way down from Earth through the roof back into my body. Now, once this happened, I was filled with excitement, I would say, and question and a whole bunch of things. And I was never able to repeat this process, though trying several times. I couldn't stay in bed long enough. And so part of that whole spiritual process that I went through, it didn't actually, it couldn't have happened if I hadn't been in the negative mindset that I was in at the time. So that particular out-of-body experience I had really helped change everything. This was about probably 28, maybe 29. Turning 30 was a big mile marker. I would say turning 30 was a big change for me. A lot of my views changed. A lot of my sensitivities changed. I became less dramatic, I would say, about the experiences that I've had, less hateful towards the experiences I've had. And turning 30 just really helped change everything. And maybe it's a level of maturity. Some people hit it sooner, some people hit it later, but hitting 30 really helped to make me feel more purposeful in life. And that's a reason a lot of us are unhappy with life, is because we feel we have no purpose. And you can find purpose with helping others. Yeah, you can find purpose with bringing humanity, doing the great things for humanity or making humanity better. But the greatest purpose in life is you. The greatest purpose for you being here is to have a conscious experience, to grow and expand and learn. And you can't grow or expand or learn without pain and suffering. Pain and suffering is what helps drive you to do things that you wouldn't normally do. Take these videos, for example. I wouldn't be making these videos if I hadn't been constantly being threatened with violence from the police department over mundane traffic violations. Constantly being threatened with death, which you threatening me with jail is like threatening me with death, because a loss of freedom is death in my view. And then that goes into my last point about life and death. And what I believe, which I think I pretty much already covered in that little previous statement, a little snippet of it. But what I mainly love to believe is that in this life some of us, most of us, I would say, would struggle and suffer through it, right? And we're unhappy majority of the time. And you know, it could just be that being human means being unhappy. You could say we have a hole in our heart that's never filled. And I can feel that too sometimes. Like it really doesn't matter how great of things you do. It would never be good enough. You're always striving to achieve something greater. And if you're constantly trying to achieve things that are greater outside of yourself, you could be left disappointed with that your actions don't actually produce what you want. But the greatest thing you can always achieve is building up yourself, building up your spirit, becoming stronger, becoming more sociable, whatever things that you want to work on that involve your spirituality and your consciousness. Because at the end of the day, when you leave this world, you're all you're taking with you, and all of your conscious experiences go with you. Now, where does all these conscious experiences go? Do we go to one solid source and our consciousnesses are all pooled together into one? Maybe. Or after we leave here, are we able to do whatever we want and live any life we want? Maybe. I do not know what's after this life. All I know is what I've experienced firsthand. Overall, I would say suicide's never an answer, no matter how miserable your life is, no matter how hateful you may feel about your life. Killing yourself or killing others for the same cause is rather meaningless, unless your entire goal is to become a negative energy or a negative spirit that only causes harm to others. And if you are feeling that way and you feel like that all you can do now is attack life itself in hostility towards what's happened to you, you're not helping yourself. You're not helping anyone. You're basically just retaliating for the misery that you've been through. And I can understand being miserable, but I can't understand attacking others because you're miserable. You should. I would suggest that instead of being miserable towards others, you would let go of all the hatred and anger that you hold and embrace love. Even if it's love for yourself, love for who you are. Because if you feel that no one else can love you, well, you have to love yourself. You have to be filled with love from within before you can spread out and share that love with everyone else. You gotta love who you are before you can love another. And so, if you have anger and if you're depressed or if you feel vengeful towards society, the only thing I could recommend is to let it go, and then find a spiritual path of peace, love, and harmony that works with you, that you can resonate with, and avoid the violence and avoid the hatred, because anger and hatred never lead you down good roads. Thanks for watching.